nation. For ancient astronaut theorists like me, these are descriptions of misunderstood technology that might be extraterrestrial in origin. And some of the most compelling evidence that our ancestors witnessed alien technology can be found in ancient artwork, like a mysterious carving in Egypt created thousands of years ago that appears strikingly similar to an electrical device from the modern world. At number 10 on our countdown of the top 10 unexplained technologies, the Dendera light bulb. Dendera, Egypt. 370 miles south of the Giza Plateau stands the Hathor Temple. This 2,000-year-old monument is remarkably well preserved and covered with elaborate artwork inside and out. Among the hundreds of carvings, a curious object can be found that, according to Egyptologists, is a representation of a lotus flower. You have depictions of this so-called lotus flower of Dendera. And there are not just a few inside the crypt, but they're in fact also on the outside wall on top. So what are we looking at here? Egyptology suggests that this bulb-like thing is the depiction of the beautiful aroma of a lotus flower. What's often not discussed is the surrounding hieroglyphics that say that this has something to do with a bringer of light. When physicists and electrical engineers and people look at this, they can readily see that there appears to be what is a filament inside this tube, to be interpreted as a glass tube. It appears to be a blueprint for what we would say is an incandescent light bulb. It's got a filament inside it that looks like a snake. There's a cable coming out of the back. It's then attached to a small box. So here we have what appears to be a depiction of an electrical device. This means that the ancient Egyptians, they knew about electricity. They were actually lighting many of their temples and tombs with electrical lights. How did the ancient Egyptians light the insides of their structures? Because some structures are deep underground and filled with hieroglyphics. The ancient astronaut theory suggests that perhaps the ancient Egyptians had access to electricity, and these lighting materials were given to the Egyptians by the extraterrestrials. The idea that ancient Egyptians had light bulbs almost 2,000 years before Thomas Edison introduced them in modern times is truly amazing. And in the 1930s, an archaeologist in Iraq discovered incredible artifacts that may reveal just where they got the power to illuminate the ancient world. Number 9 on our countdown of the top 10 unexplained technologies, the Baghdad Battery. Baghdad, Iraq, 1938. While combing through the collection at the Baghdad Archaeological Museum, a German archaeologist discovers several terracotta pots and copper cylinders dating to around the 1st century BC. Remarkably, the pots appear to have been used for generating electricity more than 1,800 years before the invention of modern batteries.
The Baghdad Battery is a very interesting piece of ancient technology. They're made up of very simple materials from that region, usually a clay pot, copper, and an iron rod surrounded by an asphalt stopper.
In 2009, ancient astronaut theorist Jason Martell showed Georgios Tsoukalos just how the so-called Baghdad batteries work.
This is made out of a clay pot, clay just found naturally in that region in southern Iraq, and then they would use a small copper lining and asphalt stopper wrapped around an iron rod. What we're going to do is basically just fill the clay pot with some weak acidic acid, orange juice in this case. We'll go ahead and put the copper rod back in there. Okay. And these all applied together creates electricity. You can consistently get about 4 volts with something about that long. So if we think of a Baghdad battery around this size generating 4 volts, what if we increase the size to around 6 feet? That might generate 20, 30, 50 volts and have the sufficient power to actually utilize energy in a way that we do today. So it's very possible that the Baghdad battery was being utilized in conjunction with other technological devices. When we look at this through the ancient astronaut lens, we see that throughout history, man has been given technology by God. We have to wonder if Baghdad batteries are the technology that were given to man by the extraterrestrials.
Next on our list is a weapon used by the Roman Empire that was so powerful it struck terror throughout the ancient world. But what's even more intriguing is that this blazing device has baffled scientists for over 1,600 years. Number 8 on our countdown, Greek fire. Constantinople, 674 AD. The magnificent capital of the Roman Empire is under attack by a fleet of 5,000 Arab ships. To defend his city, Emperor Constantine IV unleashes a powerful and mysterious new weapon that destroys the Arab navy in minutes. It was the most devastating weapon of the time and was called Greek fire.
Greek fire was a liquid that could be pumped through hoses. It was like the early flamethrowers of the time. And when it was ignited, as it came out of these hoses, it would then be directed onto ships or sometimes onto docks and things like that. And it would start a tremendous fire, and water could not put it out. It was set to burn so violently and so hot that even in the greatest of rainstorms, fire would not go out. And when projected out to sea, when it sunk into the water, it would still burn on the bottom of the ocean. It gave them enormous technological advantage in naval and land battles. Some of the chroniclers would say that water would in fact enhance its ability.
Perhaps even more astounding than the incredible power of Greek fire is the fact that scientists have not been able to reproduce it even after 1,600 years.
The recipe for this Greek fire had been very closely guarded as a secret, and it still represents one of the greatest enigmas in ancient history.
What was this mysterious technology? And more importantly, where did it come from?
One story goes that Greek fire was given to the Romans by an angel. Just change the word angel to extraterrestrial, and all of a sudden, the whole story makes sense. You have to ask, why would an angel offer such a powerful weapon and advantage to the Romans? Is this an example of extraterrestrial interference in human affairs?
For ancient astronaut theorists like me, some of the most intriguing accounts of unexplained technology can be found in the pages of the Old Testament, like the next item on our list, which we all know as the vessel used to hold the Ten Commandments. But it is also written that this mysterious wooden box could part rivers, destroy armies, and even communicate with otherworldly beings. At number 7 on our countdown of the top 10 unexplained technologies, the Ark of the Covenant. Mount Sinai, Egypt. According to the book of Exodus in the Hebrew Bible, it was here that the prophet Moses was instructed by God to build one of the most important artifacts in Judeo-Christian tradition, the Ark of the Covenant.
Moses was given very specific measurements. It was to be 4 feet long and about 2 feet wide and 2 feet of the ark was to be surmounted by two cherubim that would face each other.
God commands Moses to build this chest, which the original Ten Commandments was to be placed, and the presence of God would then be seen. Sounds very simple, but yet there were properties to the ark that made it far more than just a symbolic representation of something religious.
Biblical accounts of the ark portray it as possessing mysterious powers that aided the Israelites during their journey to the Promised Land, helping to part rivers, level mountains, and destroy armies.
The most important thing about trying to understand how the Ark of the Covenant functioned is the fact that specific instructions were given by God to Moses about how it was to be manufactured, the exact size, how it was to be raised off the ground, how it was to be carried. And this tells us almost certainly that we are dealing with technology.
Is it possible that the baffling powers ascribed to the ark provide evidence that it held highly advanced and perhaps extraterrestrial technology? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest clues can be found in rabbinical texts that describe what the ark contained.
It is said that the ark housed the actual Hebrew word is kavod, or glory of God. Now, this quote, glory of God was not something symbolic. It was something actual, something tangible, something energetic. We know from the biblical story that when the two sons of the high priest Aaron came forth to make an offering, fire entered into the nostrils and burned them from the inside, leaving their external forms intact. We might refer to that as an electrocution.
According to the biblical texts, the Ark of the Covenant was placed inside Solomon's temple, and then it simply vanished. But the extraordinary and unexplained powers of the Ark continue to interest researchers and ancient astronaut theorists to this very day.
What are we missing here in the biblical understanding of this mysterious box? It was clearly far more than just a religious icon. There was a technology involved here, and that is what makes the Ark of this day one of the greatest mysteries of our history. Another ancient description of the Ark of the Covenant can be found in a sacred Hebrew text called the Zohar. And according to one translation, the Ark contained another mysterious device that supplied the Israelites with limitless supplies of food. Number 6 on our countdown, the manna machine.
According to the Hebrew Bible's Book of Exodus, after Moses helped the Israelites escape across the Red Sea, he led them into the Sinai Desert, where they lived for 40 years. It is said that they survived by eating a mysterious food called manna.
Manna is this magical substance that's sort of white like cardamom, but it tastes like honey. You know, the Bible tells us this is what feeds people. Moses commands the people to take some, put it in a jar, keep it so that you can always tell the story of how God fed you. And that's one of the things that's put in the Ark of the Covenant. That's how special this is.
While the story of the Israelites receiving manna from heaven is traditionally understood as divine intervention, some researchers have suggested that it could also be interpreted as an event involving some kind of advanced technology. In 1978, linguistic expert George Sassoon and electrical engineer Rodney Dale published The Manna Machine. In it, they point to an ancient rabbinical text called the Zohar that describes manna coming from a curious device.
George Sassoon and
Rodney Daley, by reading the Zohar, determined that the translation was wrong. It was supposed to be the transportable one of the tanks. What does that mean? So they actually came to the conclusion that what is described was a type of a machine that they proposed was driven with nuclear power, and that produced the so-called manna to the Hebrews wandering out in the desert. Is it possible that the Ark of the Covenant contained a nuclear-powered device? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and point to clues in the Bible. In the Bible, we have multiple stories of people not only dying when they came in contact with the Ark, but some only died a week or two later. And how did they die? Because they had boils on their skin and their hair started to fall out. That is a sign of radioactive poisoning. And the only way that such a result would have been gotten is if the Ark is an extraterrestrial device that is radioactive. We're coming up on the halfway point in our countdown of the top 10 unexplained technologies. And the next item on our list can be found across the globe in the form of mysterious stone statues and strange figures painted on canyon walls. In my opinion, these images aren't just products of our ancestors' imagination, but instead are depictions of space travelers. Number 5 on our countdown, ancient astronauts. To Mexico, 1939. American archaeologists Matthew Stone and Philip Trimble begin an expedition into Pilgrim Mountain. Over the next 2 decades, they unearth extraordinary statues, carvings, and mosaics from a previously unknown culture, the Olmecs, a civilization that emerged around 1400 BC. The discovery is a major archaeological find and produced a sensational piece of evidence for the ancient astronaut theory. At the Museum of Natural History in New York City, there is a Olmec figurine, and if you look at this figurine, you can tell that this guy is wearing some sort of a suit. He has some type of controls with tubes on his chest. On the side, you have 6 wings coming out of him. So you have to wonder what is depicted here. And in my opinion, it is a smoking gun of our ancestors having access to aviation technology. Could it be that a figurine made more than 2,400 years ago depicts a person wearing some sort of advanced flying technology? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest even more compelling imagery can be found 1,700 miles to the north in Utah. Here, along the walls of Memorial Canyon, dozens of ancient cave paintings depict figures wearing very curious attire. One of the most important galleries is referred to as the family. What's interesting about this one is that it shows these apparently luminous, humanoid-type beings that appear to have spacesuits on, a helmet, even antennae.
The Navajos themselves claim that these petroglyphs were from people who were before the flood, before this cataclysm had come to the earth, and they maintain that these images were many thousands of years old.
Could it be that these figures really depict beings in spacesuits? Halfway across the world, in northwestern Australia, are dozens of cave paintings that depict other mysterious beings who appear to be wearing spacesuits, known as the Wandjina. The Wandjinas are incredible because they have these gigantic heads and these long bodies. It seems as if they're inside some sort of pressurized suit. Now, the stories
thousands and thousands of years ago. Now, this is accepted history in Australia. So my suggestion is that the extraterrestrials that came to Earth thousands and thousands of years ago didn't just visit Australia. They visited each and every continent on Earth, and that is why we have the similar motifs. When it comes to evidence of unexplained technology in the distant past, sometimes the best examples are hiding in plain sight. Like the next item on our countdown, which when you know how to look at it, reveals what I consider to be an actual depiction of an ancient astronaut. Coming in at number 4, King Pakal's tomb. Southern Mexico, 1949. Under a pyramid called the Temple of Inscriptions at the ruins of Palenque, archaeologist Alberto Luz Muller discovers a mysterious underground stairway obstructed with large stones. Over the next 3 years, Luz and his team carefully cleared the stairwell, consisting of 71 steps. When the door at the base of the stairwell is finally open, they encounter room after room of skeletons and artifacts. And in the final room, they find the tomb of King Kinich Janab Pakal.
The tomb of Pakal is one of the most amazing pieces of Maya art that we've ever found. On the top of the lid is a very elaborate carving that we believe is a depiction of Pakal falling into the underworld upon his death.
Although many historians and archaeologists interpret the carving on Pakal's lid as the king's descent into the underworld, ancient astronaut theorists suggest it depicts a very different temple journey. The sarcophagus of Lord Pakal forever will remain one of the smoking guns of the ancient astronaut theory. He is in a reclining position. He has a breathing apparatus attached to his nose. His hands are manipulating some buttons. And his feet are on pedals. It looks as if Pakal is lifting off into space inside some type of a rocket vehicle. As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, the idea that King Pakal's sarcophagus lid depicts a journey to space is supported by Maya writing that surrounds the iconic carving. Those Maya glyphs say that this is King Pakal's journey to Xibalba. Xibalba means underworld. Well, archaeologists about 15 years ago revisited the term Xibalba and concluded that actually Xibalba can also be translated as Milky Way. And all of a sudden this depiction makes sense because what we have here is a representation of King Pakal on his journey to the Milky Way. Located in central Mexico are the ruins of a mysterious city that is home to some of the most impressive pyramids ever built. While the purpose of this complex is still unknown, archaeologists have found evidence of what appears to be the makings of an advanced technological device. Number 3 on our countdown of the top 10 unexplained technologies, Teotihuacan. The Valley of Mexico. Located just 35 miles northeast of Mexico City, is one of the most unique ancient sites on Earth. Called Teotihuacan, this vast metropolis was discovered by the Aztecs in the 15th century. According to Aztec writings, this city was once home to powerful otherworldly beings.
The name Teotihuacan basically means birthplace of the gods. And the Aztecs believed that the gods themselves, out of Aztec mythology, were born there at Teotihuacan.
The city of Teotihuacan covers an area of 8 square miles. which is roughly the same size as ancient Rome. At its heart is a 2-mile-long thoroughfare named the Avenue of the Dead that connects 3 massive pyramids.
The Pyramid of the Moon sits at the very beginning of the Avenue of the Dead. The Pyramid of the Sun sits about midway along the length of the Avenue of the Dead. Those are their 2 big buildings. Then they build the Temple of Quetzalcoatl. The Temple of Quetzalcoatl is the most ornate building in all of Teotihuacan. Its entire face is covered with mosaic stones with the face of Quetzalcoatl, or the plumed serpent, with his feathers coming off of his face and his snake head coming out of the building.
Most mainstream historians believe this city was once a religious center. But ancient astronaut theorists suggest the city's massive buildings once served a more profound purpose. And as evidence, they point to an extraordinary discovery made beneath the temple of Quetzalcoatl. In May 2013, researchers employed a small robot called Tlaloc 2-TC to explore a chamber under the pyramid. Inside, archaeologists found more than 100 gold-colored metallic spheres.
These vaults are probably anything between an inch to about 5 inches in diameter.
Nobody knows the purpose of them, why they were made, or even who made them. But the fact that they're there tells us they are of utmost importance to what went on at the temple.
Many archaeologists believe the gold spheres are representations of celestial bodies observed in the night sky. But ancient astronaut theorists suggest they could have served a more profound purpose and point to another discovery made almost a mile away at the Pyramid of the Sun in 1906.
At Teotihuacan, huge mica seats have been found beneath a layer of stone flooring that were 90 feet square, and they were placed directly on top of each other, and yet you couldn't see them. So they clearly weren't decorative or aesthetic, they were clearly functional in their use. So what were they doing there?
We use mica today in spacefaring technology. It's a heat shield for high, very, very high temperatures. What is it doing at Teotihuacan?
Curiously, mica wasn't the only unusual substance found within the ancient site.
They actually found mercury under some of the pyramids as well. So what does this all mean? Well, mercury is used in different electrical components and it conducts electricity. So can we suggest that they were using this for some advanced technological purpose?
Mercury itself is very special. It's a metal, it's a liquid, it's an electrical conductor. Mercury can be used for many, many devices, all of which are high tech. So you have to wonder what is going on here at Teotihuacan. Are these small balls and the mica and the mercury all working together to create some kind of electrical device that's doing something? That would seem to be the case.
In 2017, Eric von Daniken and I were thrilled to visit the National History Museum of Transylvania to examine one of the most exciting artifacts I've ever seen. It is a 40,000-year-old aluminum relic that may provide definitive evidence of extraterrestrial visitation. Number 2 in our countdown of the top 10 unexplained technologies, the Wedge of Ayut. Transylvania, Romania, 1974.
Workers digging a trench along the banks of the Muresh River unearthed 2 giant bones, and with them, a mysterious metal object buried 35 feet beneath the surface. Intrigued by what they found, the crew takes their discovery to a nearby museum.
The object was 10 meters in depth, associated with some bones, which they later identified as mammoth bones. Mammoth were extinct 40,000 years ago, so considering the association with the mammoth bones, then the object could be older than 40,000 years ago.
This strange object, known today as the Wedge of Ayud, continues to baffle archaeologists because it is made from a mysterious alloy and appears to have been created thousands of years before humans were able to smelt or fabricate metal.
The Wedge of Ayud weighs about 5 pounds. It's about 9 inches long, and it is made out of about 89% aluminum. And this was very curious to researchers because the Wedge of Ayud had to be a very old artifact.
Humans didn't really start working with aluminum until well into the 1800s. But when you look at this wedge and you analyze it, it really has most of the modern properties we would associate with aluminum.
On January 18th, 2017, at the National History Museum of Transylvania, ancient astronaut theorists Georgios Tsoukalos and Eric von Daniken were offered a rare opportunity to get a first-hand look at the Wedge of Ayud. Museum curator Anna Gruya has taken it out of a storage locker where it has been deliberately hidden from the public since the early 1970s.
Okay. This is exciting.
So this is it.
Oh, okay. Here, this is where they took the sample out, and here to make the analysis. And here you see 2 pieces that are broken off, sort of. So maybe it was attached or something. Very strange. So what does the museum have to say about this? This is a very strange piece.
It is a strange piece for us as well. We don't know what it was used for, and we acknowledge these uncertainties about its dating and its composition as well.
We have a real mystery here. You see this patina over this whole object, and this creates another problem.
Yes. Because you cannot fake a patina.
The patina is a thin coating of various metal compounds that forms on the surface of the aluminum during exposure to atmospheric elements.
It was covered with aluminum oxide, which they said would have taken 300 or 400 years to have developed. And that also baffled scientists.
So, for what can you use this? It looks like a hammer or a shovel, but Giorgio, what is the word of in English bakkerschaufel?
Oh, an excavator tooth.
Well, it looks like this. It could have been something like it. But these excavator tubes are never made out of aluminium.
No, it's
aluminium
too
is
weak.
too soft.
Yeah.
A lot of people dismiss this as a tooth on an excavation bucket. If you ever looked at these excavators, they usually have a row of teeth in the front, and that's designed to cut through the material. I think, first of all, they would have